Very good morning to you, Mick Lynch. Thanks so much for talking to us this morning. First of all, I wondered if you could give us an update on the talks last night. As I understand, the Rail Minister, Hugh Merriman, was there, Network Rail and the Rail Delivery Group. Was any progress made?
Yes, the Rail Minister convened those talks, so we attended as invited, as did the other parties. We had an exchange about what might be possible and some ways forward and ideas that all the parties shared. And the Rail Minister requested that all the parties get down to some more discussions in the next period. We'll look to arrange those meetings with the employers and see if we can develop some solutions to the issues that hopefully all the parties can support. But there were no actual negotiations. There were some soundings out of what might be developed. So we'll look forward to getting round the table with the employers and work it up and see what we can do. But there are no new proposals on the table as we speak.
OK, and Hugh Merriman has been arguing, hasn't he? He says there's clearly an appetite amongst the workers themselves to strike a deal. This after the TSSA union accepted Network Rail's pay offer. You've rejected that deal, one that the TSSA has accepted. Why have you rejected it when they think it's adequate?
Well, the TSSA and Unite are minuscule in Network Rail. We've got 8 or 9 times their membership, and they're not affected by the changes that Network Rail wishes to make. They're generally not out on the track in all weathers. They're not actually doing the work. They are supervisors and white-collar workers. They don't do the work that our members do, who are profoundly affected by the changes, including the safety regime, as will be the public. So it's a completely different set of workers. For them, it's essentially a clean, no-strings deal. There's some minor amendments to their work-life balance and so on, but our members have got a completely different set of terms and conditions inherited from the private sector, which doesn't really affect them. So whether they're in the dispute or not doesn't really affect the course of dispute. And for our members, the proposals are completely inadequate at this time. But we'll keep working with Network Rail and the TOCs in order to get some solutions, and that's what we're aiming to do over the next period.
So, as you say, a different situation for different unions, but does it make your job harder when other unions accept the same offer?
Well, they're independent unions. I'm not involved in those unions. It's up to them. They make their decisions. If they want to get out of the dispute and accept what's on the table for them, that's up to them. But the offer for us is a different offer. They have a different collective bargaining arrangement for some of their members. And as I say, they're not affected by these changes. It doesn't really affect our members whether the TSSA are in this or not. These are the people that supervise our members. They're not really the people that are affected by the changes. So we'll keep working it up on behalf of our people. It's often the way on the railway that the RMT has to lead and others follow or drop out of the disputes at early stages. That's been the way for a century and a half so far, so it'll probably continue into the future.
Well, yes, and looking to the future, this is the start of the second 48-hour strike this week, more planned next week in the run-up to Christmas. So what would it take now to call off those strikes next week?
Well, resolutions to disputes are about compromises. We understand what the companies want and they understand what we need. So we need some compromise on some of the conditions they're putting on the offer, and we'll need an improvement in the pay offer. That is achievable in my view and in the view of my negotiating team and my executive committee. I also think it's probably the view of the company. So we need the government to facilitate that and use their good offices to get a deal. I'll be working on documents and papers with the companies if that's what they want to do with me, and then we'll try and get a solution. But there is an agreement there to be had, and we'll keep working on that and try and get to a position where we can put those proposals to our members, and ultimately our members will decide whether the two sets of proposals are acceptable to them or not.
You say there's agreement there to be had. Are you feeling any more optimistic?
I'm always optimistic. I have to be optimistic in order to get a deal. I know that there are some very simple steps that the employers and ourselves could take together to get a solution to this, and that means a common sense approach. Both sides get into a position where there's some commonly held positions, And I think we can do that in the next period. And if that is done very quickly, we can consider the industrial action going forward. And of course, if we get a set of documentation and a pay proposal that our members want to support, it will resolve the dispute and we can take all of the action away. I hope we can do that as quickly as possible.
A lot of people worried about those strikes next week. They're worried about how it'll impact their Christmas plans. Can you give us any specifics about what it will take to call off those strikes next week?
Well, we'll deal with that with the government. The strikes next week, that start on Christmas Eve during the wind down of the railway, are about the engineering works that Network Rail are carrying out when the railway is closed. So there's a full week now between now and that period. If Network Rail want to work with us on some solutions, we can consider that. But, you know, there are some very straightforward things that they can do, some very straightforward things they can do to the pay proposals and to the changes that they want. And I'll get into deep discussions with them if that's what it takes. And the Minister clearly asked us to do that in the next period. And if we can get some solutions, I can't negotiate with Sky on the television. I've got to do that in a room with the employers because that's where meaningful talks happen. And some of that stuff is quite technical. It's about rostering, it's about the way that the people are deployed, it's about their skill sets, it's about safety on the railway. So we'll do that with them, and if they can come towards us a little bit, we can maybe work up some solutions.
Are you worried, though, that action at Christmas will lose you public support?
Well, the public is with us. I get lots of messages of support. We get support when we're out on our picket lines. We know that the public will be upset and even angry about the disruption. Some of that anger should be put towards the government and the companies, we believe. But the disruption for people on the strike days that are actually happening at Christmas will be minimal. The railway shuts down on Christmas Eve, in any case, to do engineering works. There aren't scheduled trains on Christmas Day, nor on Boxing Day, and the railway curtails its activities early on Christmas Eve. That will be a little bit earlier than usual, but people have got time now to make plans, and I hope that they're successful in that, and that we can progress these talks to maybe get some solutions in the next week or so.